Howdy, kids. Welcome to another episode of Escaping the Cave. It is the Todzilla X Pod. I am your friendly host, Todd. I need a new open. I've been saying something to that effect for 6 years. I'll work on it this week, friends. It's episode number 156. Record date is a Monday morning on February the 24th of 2025. Big day yesterday. Maybe you missed it. You'd be forgiven. Sitting on a couch, trying to figure out what to watch. Didn't want to watch the news. Flipped over to FanDuel Detroit, and there was Tiger Baseball live on my television. And it was good. I hate spring training games, truth be told. I don't watch them. They're boring. Especially the early spring training games. I don't know any of the players. I think I knew 4. And I only picked it up in the 7th inning, so the starters were out by then. But it's always a big deal. For me, always has been. The first time I see live baseball on TV any year, it's a good day. Therefore, Sunday was a good day. Hopefully it was for you too. Excuse me. Voice is a little croaky today. This may be quick. Been about 12 days since I recorded anything. I was eager to get back in here. A week ago Friday, I had a lot to talk about, like Germany and what's going on in Europe, and there was some other stuff that was happening, I think, stateside. I should have done it. We had some previously organized plans. I couldn't get in here that day, and then you know how that goes, right? Momentum stops. You don't take advantage of it when you got it, and all of a sudden, instead of 2 days, well, here's 12 days. I posted some on Facebook. Something to the effect that the pace of everything is so fast that if you don't keep up and you let a couple of days slip, all of a sudden, man, it's like everything. You're backlogged. You can't pick everything up. You can't stay caught up on anything. So here I am, kind of forcing myself to get back on the horse today. Doge still in the news, and I had this thing here. Let me see if I can find it for you. It was an article from Real Clear Politics, and it's from a couple weeks back, and it looks like it was Valentine's Day. And if you missed this, go ahead and go find it real quick while you're listening. You're probably on your phone. You could probably scroll along and find it while I'm talking about it, but it's called, the headline of it, the title of the article, realclearpolitics.com. Title of the article is "The Judicial Resistance," in quotes, is setting itself up for an epic smackdown. Now, crux of this article is that the judicial branch has no enforcement teeth. It can't enforce its judgments. It can rule against you, but what's it going to do? Department of Justice, the executive branch, has to enforce whatever the judiciary comes up with. And this article's saying that, well, what if, worst case scenario, that Donald Trump was, did something illegal, or one of his henchmen did something illegal, something criminal, something prosecutable, and the judge ruled against him and said, you must be arrested. What would happen if Pam Bondi just said, nope? What would happen if Trump just pardoned him? The judiciary has no teeth without cooperation from the executive branch. They don't have their own law enforcement branch. It's in the executive. That's the crux of this article. If Trump just decides to defy the judicial branch with the support of Pam Bondi, there's nothing they can do about it. He has the power of the pardon. It's a really sobering article if you're of the resistance vein, right? Part of the Revolutionary Guard. I'd go read that if I were you. Real Clear Politics. The judicial resistance setting itself up for an epic smackdown. Oh, here we go. Donald Trump has basically made it look like that he has abandoned Zelensky in Ukraine. Said something to the effect of that Ukraine started the war. Zelensky started the war by not making a deal. And boy, media, all the lefties are up in arms. Of course, Zelensky and Ukraine did not start that war. Everybody knows that. And the mental gymnastics you see people going through to try to, rationalize and justify Trump saying that. Well, they kind of did, didn't they? No, they didn't. They didn't start anything. Trump called him a dictator. And he needs to have elections, and he hasn't had any elections. That if he had elections, he probably would be beaten and wouldn't be in power. Hey, he's making it look like he's just going to pull the plug on everything as far as Ukraine goes and hand the country over to Russia. And, of course, everybody's up in arms. Everybody's, oh, my God, it's like a Neville Chamberlain. You're pulling a Munich. I don't think that's what's going on. What I think's going on is I think he said that. And we're going to see. I don't know. I'm not a political science major. Never been a diplomat. Go figure. What I think he's doing is I think he's trying to put Europe on notice. I think he's trying to make them shit themselves, soil their panties. So they have to actually think about defending themselves for the first time since World War II. And it's working. If that's his strategy, and it could be, he likes to do this. He likes to make these statements to throw people into a panic to force action. Go back and look at the tariffs, that kind of thing, right? What if he is? What if he's saying all this to panic Europe? Keir Starmer, that his name, did I get that right? The Jurgoff from England. And I think, who's the other one? Somebody else was having a panic. They're like, we have to get this. We have to build our army. Zelensky said he wanted a European army, that he wanted Europe to rearm to defend themselves against the Russian threat. All on the heels of Trump saying he was going to basically pull the plug on Ukraine support. It could be Trump's talked about this 100 million times, it seems like. Pulling out of the UN, making Europe pay for their share of the United Nations, pay for their own defense. Eureka. I have nothing. I like Europe. Met a lot of Europe. I lived in Europe for a while. I have nothing against Europe. But we have been subsidizing their welfare programs with our defense budget for decades. 80 years or something like that, right? 80 years we have been protecting Europe. So they haven't had to arm themselves. They haven't had to protect themselves from the Russian aggression, the Russian threat from the East. We had our weapons over there, had our missiles in Europe for a really long time, so they could spend all of their money on these social programs. What if that ended? What if they suddenly had to pay for that? What if they suddenly had to protect themselves? What's going to happen to those social programs? The French riot over everything. What's going to happen if the French government suddenly has to blast their defense spending into the stratosphere? And they have to start cutting some of these social programs. You're going to see riots all over the place, austerity riots. You think we're going through austerity now here in this country? Oh, if Europe has to arm itself? Oh, boy. I had a couple of conversations with a friend of mine about Greenland. You know, remember Trump says he wants to take back the Panama Canal? I think he should. Great idea. And he wants to take Greenland. He wants to buy Greenland from Denmark. Oh, it's not for sale. Yeah, we want it anyway. And he's talking about Canada becoming the 51st state. I'll probably have more on that here in a minute. But a buddy of mine was like, well, what do you think Europe would do? What if Trump just decided to go take Greenland? What do you think Europe would do? Would they put up a fight? Would they fight back? I'm like, No, they can't do anything. They wouldn't do anything. I mean, they'd talk. They'd bark. Woof, woof. Arr. But realistically speaking, they can't do anything. Because they decided to, let's just use the example. We march into Greenland and take it. What's Denmark and Ireland going to do? What's France going to do? Are they going to come and bite their protector? Are they going to bite their own guard dog? You cut ties with the United States, you piss off the United States, you make an actual enemy out of the United States, suddenly your eastern front door is wide open. That's the cost of dependency. Your social programs, once you have to start rearming yourself, are gone. You're going to look a lot like us. Free healthcare? Gone, can't afford it. Free education? Gone, can't afford it. Austerity, riots galore. Now Trump marched into Greenland. Nobody's going to do a goddamn thing about it. They'll scream, they'll yell, they'll, kick up their verbal heels, but nothing else. That's the price of dependency. They are dependent upon American muscle to protect their eastern flank, to keep their social programs afloat. The price of that dependency, if Trump wanted it to be, could very well be Greenland. What are they going to do? Nada. Panama? Come on. Panama Canal should be in U.S. hands. We built it. Teddy Roosevelt. I've got a wonderful book on this. Oh, I wish I would have brought it in here. I don't remember the title. I've been reading it. River of Doubt or something like that. I didn't know this. I think I did. I think I forgot it. Anyway, I bought this on a whim at a used bookstore. And it's about Teddy Roosevelt. After he got defeated in 1912 or whatever it was. And his political career was coming to an end. He was depressed. And what he did when he was depressed was he went out and did shit. He went out like out west. His wife and his mother died, I think, on the same day. Really close to it. And he was depressed and decided he needed a change. He went out west for like 3 years and became Teddy Roosevelt. Anyway, he did the same thing after he lost the election. Goes down to South America and decides he's going to sail up a river, an uncharted, unexplored river in the Amazon. Almost died, almost killed him. Right? Anyway, it reminded me of how it's kind of way off in a tangent. I just wanted to talk about that. It's a great story. It's a really good book. I haven't quite finished it yet, but I'm loving it. Anyway, Teddy Roosevelt, when he decided he was good, Panama was in the hands of Colombia back in the day, right? So they were trying to decide if they were going to cut the canal through Nicaragua or Panama, found the isthmus, and started negotiating with Colombia about doing the Panama Canal through their territory. Well, Colombia decided they were going to say, hey, we want this and this and this and this and this, just asking for all sorts of shit. And Teddy was like, screw you. We're gonna back this revolutionary movement in Panama. That's how Panama got to be a country. I hate to admit it. I kind of like American colonialism sometimes. That's just a great story to me. I love it. No, you don't want to really, you don't want to, you sure you want to fuck around? Well, now you don't have this part of your territory anymore. Teddy Roosevelt was a badass. A badass man. Oh yeah, Ukraine. That's what I think Trump's doing. I think he's shaking things up. Now everything's sort of fluttering down and sorting itself out. Well, I think that's it exactly. I think he's trying to instill panic in Europe so they will start to take care of themselves a little bit. Now, a lot of things going on in Europe, too. I've been meaning to talk about this, and I don't know how far into this I'll get because of my voice. But J.D. Vance was over there last week, I guess, and gave what was supposed to be a foreign policy speech, and wound up tearing into lecturing Europe on free speech, on the suppression of political parties. He was talking about one in particular. I think it was I don't remember where it was, but one of the conservative parties. They call it a far-right party. It was a conservative party. It was an anti-woke party. Was elected. They won an election, and the establishment, the powers that be, said that there were election irregularities and voided the election. One of the political parties, the AfD, hope I got that name right, is making serious headway in Germany. This is Musk's party. He wants to see these guys do, because they're sick and tired of the censorship. They're sick and tired. You think we've got a migration problem? Oof. And Germans are getting fed up with it. So the AfD, hope I've got that name right. Please, I'll check it afterwards. But they're making headway. And of course, everybody who doesn't want to see them gain any ground, oh, it's a neo-Nazi party. They're all Nazis. They're all white supremacists. You sure? You sure about that? Sounds familiar. Sounds like an awful lot like what we were hearing about a year ago here. Keir Starmer in England. Oh boy. I've been paying a lot more attention to what's happening in Europe because I want to see if the anti-woke shit, if the anti-woke movement, the anti-woke boomerang has flown over the Atlantic and is about to whack some people in the head over there. I'm cautiously optimistic. If it doesn't happen in this election cycle, it's coming. Europe they're in worse shape than we are as far as the woke stranglehold. As far as the migrant stranglehold, there's Muslims. And they have been hiking and invading and sort of oozing into Europe for decades. When I was in Germany, I mentioned this earlier, right? I was talking about being in West Germany. It was a big deal then that there were so many Turks in Germany. It was a thing. It was a big thing for these people. And this was in the mid-'80s. Lots of terrorist attacks. There was another one yesterday. The day that Vance was there lecturing European leaders in Munich. There was an attack in Munich. Yeah. Europe's in bad shape. It's particularly England, Ireland. If you're not following a lot of people on Twitter, it's a really good place to go kind of get a feel and a vibe for what's happening. But it reminds me of what was going on here. It's really too bad, too, because I'm not sure that they're really going to be able to get the traction that we could here because they don't have free speech laws. They don't have a First Amendment to protect them. There are hate speech laws and misinformation laws. There are people in England who are being arrested for posting something saying, I love England and I don't really care, for Islamic immigrants. You can get arrested for that over there. There were people who went to a counter-protest. A bunch of Muslims out marching in the streets of London, I think. And a bunch of English folks took their Union Jack and went parading. They wanted to say, hey, we love our country. A bunch of them were arrested for that. Same thing in Germany. I'm sure you saw this, at least heard about it. It was right after the J.D. Vance speech, right? CBS, what was her name? It was Margaret somebody. But Margaret Brennan, I know it was her. On CBS, on Face the Nation, I do believe, she said that free speech caused the Holocaust. Free speech caused the Holocaust. Now, this can go one of two ways. She didn't really elaborate on what she meant by that, but I'm going to assume that she meant that she thinks free speech was alive and well in the Weimar Republic, and that was what led to the Nazis coming to power back in the early 1930s. I'm just assuming this is what she meant, because if she thinks that free speech was a thing after 1933 in Germany, she's retarded, and she needs to probably be put down, at least vocationally. Okay? Do you know who Joseph Goebbels is, Margaret? There was nothing about free speech in Germany after Hitler came to power. There were so many Germans arrested. You couldn't even listen to foreign broadcasts without the threat of execution in Germany under Hitler. So let's just give this idiot the benefit of the doubt, shall we? And say she meant before Hitler came to power. Hitler was imprisoned for a putsch, the beer hall putsch. The Nazi Party was actually banned for years. It didn't work. Suppression didn't work. It came to the point where they were reinstated. They had made so much headway, probably in large part due to the fact that the party was suppressed. And all of that stuff gets bottled up. You don't do away with the sentiments just by banning a political party. You take away the outlet. So what happens is the sentiments start to gurgle up inside. They get bottled up and they start to form this pressure. They don't go anywhere. That's exactly what we're seeing here in this country right now. People have been suppressed for so long, had their speech suppressed for so long, been told that they can't express how they feel for so long. Go take a walk around Twitter for a while and see what that looks like to you. That's when people are getting their, say it again, I need a new phrase, their panties in a bunch over on Twitter because they've been bottled up. And somebody comes along and says you can say what the hell you want to say, they're going to say it. They've got things to say. They've got things that they haven't been able to say for years. Actually, if anything led to the rise of Hitler, a contributing factor was banning the political party, banning the Nazi Party, not confronting it head on. And economic factors, that didn't help when you're taking wheelbarrows full of cash to buy bread. Maybe a change is good. Free speech caused the Holocaust, says Margaret Brennan. You banned the Nazi Party, you made the man a martyr, you made him famous, you made him more powerful. We're going to try to do the same thing in Germany with this AfD party. God, I hope I have that name right. My international political details are a little fuzzy sometimes. I'll blame it on age. But I feel bad for Germany. I've told this story about the people that I met when I was traveling around Central and South America. A really nice collection, international collection of people when you go backpacking down there. They're young. You know, their kids probably between 18 and 21 most of the time. I was in my mid-40s when I was doing this. I still look young, and I still acted young. I could outdrink them. It was great. We get along really well. But there was a couple of Germans that I met while I was down there. Several, actually. But there was one in particular that I met at a hostel on Isla Mujeres in Cancun. We were spending a few days there back in 2015. And nice kid, 22, 23. I wish I could remember his name. I don't. But we got to talking. I love to talk to these guys about politics. And again, this was in the run-up to Trump, 2015. So this is, Trump was becoming a thing, and we were talking about whether or not he could get elected. I said he could. Everybody thought I was crazy. Now I seem like Nostradamus to them. But this guy, I don't remember what it was, but it had something to do with soccer. I don't think they won the World Cup, but they won something, some big deal, right? And he was happy, but he didn't want to say he was happy. I'm like, what the hell, man? Why? Well, we're not really allowed to show pride in our country. It's a bad thing in Germany to show pride in Germany. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? That is, to me, is unthinkable. But with their history, they've been conditioned to suppress any sort of national pride because German nationalism was weaponized once upon a time and bad things, horrific things happened. So this entire society, this entire culture has been neutered of patriotism over the last 80 years. I think it sounds familiar, doesn't it? You know, we're not allowed to be proud of our country here either. Well, we are. We do it defiantly. But that's a big thing if you're a liberal. You're not allowed, or we aren't allowed. If you're a liberal you're talking from this perspective, from this point of view, they are not allowed to have pride in their country, in their history, in their heritage. Nothing about their culture has any redeeming qualities. It's all evil. Slavery, you killed the Indians, you blah, 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 blah. America, bad. Right, Jasmine? Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett. But it reeks of something. Always did, and it really bothered me because this kid was so nice. Had a really good heart, and you could tell he was proud. He was feeling it. He was feeling the pride. Okay? It wasn't genetically it didn't have it re-educated out of him. He felt pride in his country. He felt pride in what his country's soccer team did. But he did not feel like he could express it. Where is that going? It didn't go away. You know, it wasn't suppressed out of existence. Germany is playing with fire. And I'll tell you, there is nothing wrong. I don't care. I do care what happened. I shouldn't say I don't care about World War II. Of course I care about World War II. It's one of my favorite periods of history. It's instructive, and the evil and the horror that people were, that people acquiesced to, allowed, is unspeakable. It is. They were school teachers working at concentration camps. Fine, upstanding members of the community. How did that happen? It's instructive, but it was 80 years ago. Germany had a culture long before World War II. And there's nothing wrong with being proud of that. Nothing at all. There's nothing wrong with being proud of where you came from. I talk about this in the context of the United States all the fucking time. I talked about this when I was back in, I guess it was September of 2023. I went to Fort Michilimackinac, up at the top of the Lower Peninsula here in Michigan. And I went because my family, on my dad's side, colonized Canada. Came from France, down the St. Lawrence Seaway, and planted their flag or whatever the fuck it was. And yeah, helped colonize Canada, French Canadians. My mother's side she has four of her ancestors that came on the Mayflower. 4 of them. I come from, you don't get much more colonial than this. So I wanted to go up there and I wanted to commune with my colonizing ancestors, I think is how I put it. And I have a huge interest in this. Just a wonderful fascination with this. Trying to identify what my family went through to get here, or further than here. And I really have a problem with people telling me that I need to be ashamed of that. These people were badasses. These people experienced hardships. And these snowflake little college kids protesting on college campuses, it'd kill them in 2 days. We come from badass stock. That's how I put it in that podcast. And I'm proud of that. And I'm sick and tired of being told that I should be ashamed of everything about this country, that everything about it is bad. That's bullshit. And I'm talking to you, Germany. When they say that to you, that's bullshit too. There should be an element of pride in Germany, in England, in France. You should be proud of your culture. You should be able to try to protect it. It shouldn't be prioritized somewhere down here. while all of these other cultures are elevated and lifted in the name of equity, in the name of diversity and inclusion and multiculturalism. I want to tell Germany and I want to tell England, whenever I see these stories, I see these marches, I read about these terrorist attacks, when I hear about the suppression of free speech in Europe, and it's a big deal. It's a big fucking deal. We don't have to worry about that as much in this country because we have the First Amendment. They don't. Censorship online, being arrested for hate speech, which really isn't. Expressing an opinion, expressing patriotic pride, standing up for your country, that will get you put in jail in Europe. And I want to tell them whenever I see these stories, stand the fuck up. Stand the fuck up. I wish I could say it in German. I really do. And hopefully they will. I do see there are indications. I mean, again, I'm not there. I'm not plugged completely in. I'm more concerned. My priority is this country at this point in time and that cat howling out in the hallway. But what I've seen, and I've been pretty good about this. I started to call the anti-woke backlash here a few years ago. Took a long time. But I'm seeing indications over there. There are a lot of people that are getting to the point where they're about to tell Keir Starmer and whoever the fuck's in charge of Germany to go fuck themselves. This is our country. We are proud of our heritage. We are proud of our culture. We will not be told we're ashamed of it. We will not have our patriotic pride suppressed in the name of internationalism and multiculturalism and whatever else. Globalism. To make migrants feel better about themselves. I want to tell them, Germany, stand the fuck up. England, stand the fuck up. It's easy for me to say here in the Midwest of the United States, right? I know. But I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering for you. There are a lot of people in this country that are waiting, hoping to see indications that Europe will start to push back, fight back, that the counter-revolution is gaining ground over there. We'll see. We will see. Where is it? There it is. Told you this is going to be short today. What, about a half hour or so? It's all right. I've been wanting to do that Germany piece for a long time. These are interesting times, man. It's like Brexit back in 2016, 2015, whatever it was. Sort of was the canary in the coal mine for Trump, right? I'm hoping to God that Trump is the canary in the coal mine for Europe because they need to be rescued from themselves. From whatever has taken hold of that continent. It's putrid. It smells familiar. I, for one, am rooting for y'all. Y'all. Means you all. It's the Escaping the Cape podcast, about to be rebranded into the Tonzilla X-Pod. Be looking for that. You can check out the YouTube channel. Got a couple of new videos up there. That's at Tonzilla X, also Tonzilla X at Substack. Thinking about doing some more writing. You've been threatened. Thank you for clicking in. We will talk to you next time. So long.